Hello everyone. I'm Gemma Starr and welcome to another episode of Heart Warriors. This is a series I've been guided and inspired to do thanks to my energetic connection with Katajuda. Katajuda is the beautiful sacred masculine site in Central Australia, very close to Uluru, our sacred feminine site. What I'm here to do is to give a platform to our men so they can articulate their journey into the heart, sharing it man to man with other men watching, and of course those women who are walking right there beside them, and are also seeking to get a deeper understanding into the masculine journey. Today's guest is an Aussie man. His name is Aaron Schultz, and he is a yoga meditation teacher, but he's also an anxiety management teacher, and he's also very into men's mental health, and he is the grassroots founder of a amazing charity here in Australia helping rural men, men's mental health. And well, I don't know a lot about it, to be honest, so let's find out. Enjoy. Hello, Aaron Schultz. Welcome to Heart Warriors. How are you going?
Very well. Thank you very much. Lovely to be here with you today.
Yeah, this is going to be a great episode because you have got so much teaching experience around a lot of core men's issues. So before we get into that, I'm really excited to find a bit more out about you. How would you describe the man you are today?
Oh, God. I've never been asked that question. I'd like to say fulfilled and content, but there's always a tug of war with that sort of thing. You know, when I get back to my heart, I do feel that. But when I sort of get too much in the mind, then I start to, have those judgments and that sort of stuff come in that we all battle with as guys.
Oh, beautiful. Amazing. Let's take us back to little Aaron. What sort of challenges did he have growing up?
Well, by the time I was 3, I had a pretty large brain tumor pulled out of my head. So that was a reasonable challenge. I'm pretty lucky to be here. I spent a long time in the Alfred Hospital when I was a young fella, and there was a fair recovery with regards to that. So it was in 1974. So the technology probably wasn't that good back then with regards to doing these sorts of operations. So I've got a scar from the base of my neck to the top of my head from that. And basically it took a while, I think, to come good. When I was a young fella, like I had a few coordination issues and things like that. And, I loved sport, but I wasn't that great at sport, So that had its challenges coming through school. But one thing that I remember as a little fella was, being brought up in regional Australia, in country Victoria, I like in farming community and that type of thing. I was really connected to my heart. I was just a nice, easygoing kid. And I really remember the moments when that sort of got, tarnished a bit in the school system. So, so I had to sort of, quickly change from being a nice, rigid, fluent little boy into one that had to, meet a regime and an agenda, I suppose. And that took me out of alignment with my heart for quite a while. So sort of come through that system and into a technical school. So a technical school was an all-boys school, and that was pretty rough and tumble. Then you get spat out the other side and you think, what am I going to do with my life? And you've got people expecting you to, get into a job and all that sort of stuff. And I didn't really have a clue, how to go about it. But I did know that I loved helping people, back then. And unless you had like great marks in year 12 and went to uni, the opportunities to be able to get into, that system weren't really available. And, things like yoga and all that sort of stuff weren't around then. So, so for someone like me, I just went into the traditional workforce, and then, sort of thought success was going to come from making a lot of money and having a good job and a good status. And I kept climbing the ladder. And one day I got home, I'd been traveling a lot, and I was miserable. I really felt miserable. And I was disconnected with myself and my soul and my purpose in life, so that sort of took me on a journey to waking up and starting to do things, through my physical body to get myself right, and then sort of took me into Buddhism primarily. I got into Buddhism, and that sort of taught me a lot about the way my mind works and how to sort of manage that, and then from there sort of into yoga and into meditation and the journey that I am on now. And yeah, basically helping a lot of other guys primarily learn to get out of their head back to their heart again.
Oh, fascinating. There's two things I'd like to touch on here. I'd like to go back to that moment when you realized the school system was programming you to get out of your heart. Can you articulate that experience a little deeper for us to understand the actual process, how you experienced it?
It's sort of like a shock. It's like the shock goes into you, and then you sort of go into this more, I was having to do things I didn't want to do. You were really compared and judged and criticised, all that type of stuff, which is really, really difficult. And I remember, a blow to the heart being more powerful than a blow to the body, primarily. So when you're called names by a school teacher or, your peers or whatever, it can really be difficult for a young man. And I think my story is pretty common. That happened quite a lot. The kids that were good academically, possibly, and I was one of them, I was quite good, but that self-doubt crept in too. But the kids that were good then and also good at sport are now at the age where I am, and they're like really miserable and overweight. So I'm sort of giving them a hand, So it's funny how success in that school realm is seen as, being a pathway to happiness, but really I don't know whether that's actually right or not.
Yes. They sell us the dream, right? Do well at school, get a great job, and have a great life. That's right. The program they sell in school. Because I know even when my boys were in the final years of school, a few years ago, even in year 10, which they've still got 2 years to go, they were asked to choose their career path and then choose their subjects that would, guide them towards that path, instead of what subjects do you want to do, and then let's find out what you want to do after school. They were already being boxed into a career, follow that line, work your way up, and you'll be happy.
Yeah, there's definitely sinister motives behind the whole system, to be honest with you, and it goes way back. If we can sort of push people down a funnel, then, we've got control. I have 2 boys myself, and they're both very talented at sport and very talented. We're very talented at school. My oldest son is nearly 22 now, and he could have done very well at sport, and I sort of guided him down a pathway of doing what makes you happy. I'd taken him to India, I'd taken him to all these challenging places to see the truth of it all. My youngest son has just finished year 12. I've paid, private school fees the whole time. And I just said to him, don't get sucked into the Christianity, movement that's basically governing the system that you're in. Just do what you need to do. So his whole development's been around, finding what you love. Next year's going to be a year of just getting out and discovering the world, and then just seeing where that takes him without being in a rush. Whereas we had to make a decision straight away on what we wanted to do, and it was terrifying. Pretty much to say, I'm going to be a salesperson all my life or whatever, because my family, like my mum was 43 when she had me. I've got an older brother who was 22 years older than me, and he'd been in the same job since he left school till he retired. So that whole pathway, that expectation of coming from a rural town, once you did something, that was it for you. So it was quite challenging for me to be able to sort of change jobs and have judgments of my family, my broader family around me, shifting into things, because I was really out of my heart alignment, as I mentioned.
Yeah, and if children are asked to make that choice at 16 and they haven't even found themselves, they're often going to take on what their parents want them to be. And then
That's
once
right.
they start that direction, they're like, hey, well, what about me? I mean, I know with my boys, I said, you don't, even though they're both good academically, I said, you don't have to do university. I said, if there's nothing you particularly want to do that you're passionate about, don't do uni, do something that you're passionate about. And as it is, one then 2 years later went back and did a year of uni. Then he decided it wasn't for him, but he made the decision instead of the school system or parents making the decision for our children. Do you think that's from your experience working with older men now, and probably younger men, but let's say men that are out of school, has this been a core fundamental problem about this conditioning with the schooling and what you have to do when you leave school?
Firstly, that term university bugs me because the university system doesn't have any connection with the universe, primarily. So I don't know where that's come from, but absolutely. To give you a bit about my background, I worked in the mental health and psych system early when I left school. So I worked in institutions. Back then, they used to throw people in a mental asylum if they had something wrong with them per se. So I worked in that system for quite a while, and always had a lot of compassion for the guys in there and did a lot of work with them. And I came out and worked in a couple of different things, but then I got into man management through labour hire. So I had a large team of guys working with me, for me, not so much for me, but with me. I really treated the people that I had working with me, as companions and colleagues and friends. And I had a lot of compassion and empathy for the guys. I employed a lot of guys that were in jail to get them back on the path, whereas a lot of people would just neglect them. So I saw in guys traumatized little boys pretty early and pretty quickly. I could see that within people, and I could see ego and see where ego was taking people, and really being able to sort of have compassionate conversations with them about what makes them tick and actually make them feel safe at the end of the day. So I had 400 or 500 people under my umbrella, and I was traveling and getting around the place a lot and doing all the things that society thinks great, staying in awesome motels and doing all that sort of stuff. But yeah, certainly I would say 8 out of 10 would be doing something that they didn't really love or didn't really want to do at the end of the day.
So can you please talk to parents now who have got young children who are not finished school yet and give them some advice?
Absolutely. Definitely don't push your kids. Just let them find their way. They need guidance. They'll need guidance around potential problematic behaviours, influence around social media, all that sort of stuff that we never had when we were young. But that is the way of the world now, unfortunately. Like I realised that with my kids, that I had to let them go with that, but actually just keep an eye on it without it being too dictative, I just think, the world's changed. We've got to adapt to that. And at the end of the day, if you can just be more of a loving guide to your children, then they're going to respond to that. Speak to them more from here, and that's really what kids need. That's what every human needs. So, my belief, like my knowing that I had here when I was young in my heart, has come back. I've been able to teach yoga primarily into some highly challenging areas like male maximum security prisons and areas where guys are completely traumatized and from what society sees as being damaged. But if you can help an individual feel loved and safe and welcome and supported, it's amazing what happens when they get back to their heart again, what actually comes out, And this is where the whole model that we're in, this colonial model, is really, really asked about, but it's designed that way for a reason, that we just disconnect people. And, my vision is to do what I can to be able to change that.
Oh, amazing. What can, I'm just going to ask questions as they flow today, and we'll see where we go, but I don't want to miss certain opportunities, because what can you say to people when you said you were helping prisoners and, maximum security men rehabilitate and get in touch with their heart. What advice have you got for people who know men who are struggling with this? Just simple things that everyone can do every day, connecting with these men.
First of all, make them feel safe, in the conversation or in the environment that you're in. So when you know yourself well enough, you can see yourself in someone else, and you can see when someone's putting on a mask, or they're putting on a false behavioural system to be able to cover up their truth. But to actually have heart-centered and heart-based conversations with an individual will take them from a sixth gear back to a first and a neutral gear. And that's the way I like to manage people. Not so much manage people, but respond to people, so I can see when someone's escalated and be able to de-escalate them. And when you can do that, you actually get that heart-based communication, which doesn't discriminate. It doesn't discriminate across all races, all nationalities. We all have this ability within ourselves to be able to connect to that. And once you can help someone feel peaceful and calm again, it's amazing the conversations that evolve. And then you have growth conversations rather than, limiting conversations. Yeah, if that makes sense.
Sorry, go on.
If that makes sense, yeah.
Yeah. So as a woman, when you're saying the men need to feel safe, obviously some women are physically violent, but most aren't. So I'm guessing that it's emotional safeness. Can you explain to women as a man what emotional safeness from a woman feels like?
Definitely most guys are pretty well terrified with regards to their wives or partners leaving them. I know that. I was married for, I don't know, geez, probably 15 years, I suppose. We were together for maybe 20, and I got disconnected from that marriage because of my work. I was away too much, and I thought the whole ball game was around me because I was the main breadwinner, and all that. But my wife never really was able to find her independence throughout the marriage. So that's where things got a bit disjointed. So I believe, to be successful in a relationship, you first got to, know yourself. So before you say I love you, you first must understand you've got to understand yourself. And I didn't know that either, really. And I guess most guys don't, because we get thrust into this world where we're really disconnected from our hearts, If you can just get back to what your heart says to you, then the right person will come into your life. And I always say that a relationship really should be quite effortless. They should flow together really, really well. And that's what I need as a man. I need someone that I can connect with. I'm single, but I don't go on dating websites and chase. Once you force, then you get forced back upon eventually. But once you open yourself up and you actually allow the right individual to come into your life, then usually, the outcomes are much better. So for women to understand men, I just think listening is probably the most important thing. My wife probably struggled to listen to me, and she'd probably agree with that. When I was struggling and I'd talk, I'd get shut down really quickly, and then that'd go to having a beer and being disconnected from myself. And this is a cycle that guys get on. We get on this hamster wheel, and a lot of us don't want to go to counsellors or whatever, which I don't believe is, really for everyone, because that's a clinical approach. A lot of guys need this heart-centered approach, from another individual that may have walked the same path. That's why I'm sort of doing what I'm doing with the charity that I've set up, because I really want to help guys, understand themselves again and actually have the ability to be able to speak to someone that's been on the same journey as them, rather than someone that's just gone to school and gone to uni, and they're probably disconnected with themselves as much as anyone, So that's where the whole model, I think, has got to shift into the future.
Yeah, it's that thing about counselling. You can go and get a university degree, but it doesn't bring into experience into account. And obviously your life, and I know from my life, we speak through experience, and that's the greatest value. So while we're here, please tell us how your charity came about. You're the founder. Lead us through that, please.
Look, It's interesting. Coming from regional Australia, regional Victoria primarily. I'm still in regional Australia now. I'm in regional Queensland, which is much nicer because it's warm. But so I've got that sort of farming background within my family and all that. And so to cut a long story short, I was in Tasmania. I worked in the government as a workplace health advisor, so at a reasonably high level there. I got into that role to basically try and do what I could to help individuals be less stressed and tense and anxious in the workplace. To try and put some interventions in place to help people, feel good about themselves. Now, what I learned in that particular system is, the whole agenda is not really interested in actually like giving people fulfillment. It's actually more around, keeping them in control and keeping people stressed, tense and anxious in the workplace is not a bad thing. So, so in that sort of government realm, that government model, there's a funnel, as I sort of mentioned before, which sort of takes people to disempowerment, and that disempowerment leads to medication and all these sorts of things which are supporting the economy. So I learned that unhealthy people are good for the economy at the end of the day. So I walked away from that job. I'd been practicing Buddhism for quite a few years before then. I was really connected to myself. I was really connected to my body. So I went to a yoga class one lunchtime. This strong voice came to me and said, go back to work, quit your job and become a yoga teacher. So so I did. So I actually walked into a board meeting after that class, and there's all these high-level executives sitting around eating shit food and drinking rubbish, and we're meant to be the health department primarily, trying to govern the whole state around health. But all the people that are making decisions are purely unhealthy themselves. Great salaries, they might be seen to be successful, but really, are they successful? So I looked around and said, look, after that meeting, I'm out of here. So got on board with the yoga teacher centre, and I went and did my training. I moved back to Victoria, and I started to teach yoga in the community where I was brought up. So that was initially sort of met with some resistance because yoga was weird. But eventually a few people started to come, then some guys started to come, and I helped the guys become better athletes. So that helped their ego, So through their bodies, they actually were able to perform better, and they were actually feeling calm. So one club I worked with, I helped them learn that was the problem for them. And they went through the whole season undefeated. They won the grand final. They had no injuries. They were meditating before games, all this type of stuff. So it just goes to show, if you're true to your heart and true to yourself, how that actually spreads and comes. And you develop an aura around you which actually protects you, and that helps you, provide guidance to people that need it, So that's evidence of what actually goes on a lot in regional areas, like this ego, this attitude, this persona, which is fake. But, for me to be able to do the work on myself, actually saw where I was blocked, helped me see where I was blocked, and it helps me see where others are blocked and be able to sort of, gently help them move through that. And yoga is a great way to help, to use the body to get to the mind, and then to, get everything back into alignment again. So as I mentioned, we have this beautiful gift when we're young. We just get stripped out of our alignment. It's just about bringing people back home again.
Fascinating, because I'm a yogi too. I do the Bikram. I've done it like 20 years with a bit of yin too. But let's talk about men and yoga while we're here. So a man's thinking, wow, that sounds interesting. Where do I start? There's so many different types of yoga around. What do you suggest, Aaron?
Well, I'm a Kundalini yoga teacher as well, and don't start there because that is intense. And if you really want to, learn about yourself, I'd say, yeah, well, maybe have a crack at it, but you've got to be persistent. A lot of people turn up once and they don't come back. But that is probably the most profound form of yoga, spiritually, physically, and mentally. What it can actually do to your field and system, it can shift things really dramatically. So for me, that was the thing that actually changed me a lot. But primarily, I would suggest for a guy that does physical work, yin yoga is a great stepping stone, because that's actually holding the body open in common postures for long periods of time. No one's looking at you, no one can see you, you're not judged, it's just you versus you at the end of the day. So to be able to actually just follow instructions and open your body up. When you open the fascia in your body, basically your nervous system gets a reboot too. So it's a great way to learn to meditate. So you just watch how much in your mind you are when you do a practice like yin. You're thinking so much, but once your breath gets into a rhythm, the mind follows that, the body follows that. This is a technology that we don't actually understand as guys, These three parts to us, which we can get into union and unison. Once that happens, then everything gets back into rhythm again, So yin's a great way to be able to do that. If you look at Chinese medicine, primarily they talk about the yin and the yang. I'm sure everyone's seen that symbol. To balance that yang with the yin is so important, So my life was very yang for a long time. Kundalini yoga is very yang. Bikram yoga is very yang. But yin is just the opposite of that. It's a polar opposite. So it's actually slowing down. And I believe that's the most important thing that we need to do in modern society is learn to slow down. Hit the off button because we just don't know how to do it. And that's a great way to get into that. So say, for example, if you had the opportunity to be in an environment where you had the ability to be able to do Bikram, I'd say, yeah, do it because that'll get you out of your mind, but also definitely balance it with the yin because the yin will just be a nice counterbalance for that. That's for sure. So yeah, any guys listening, try and get into some yin and contact me and I can probably give you some guidance. You can do some stuff at home possibly as well.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you for that. So I loved what you said about the yin specifically, but and the Bikram or whatever type of yoga will get in your mind, get you in the out of your mind, in the silence, in the stillness, even if it's just holding a posture. Now, why is silence and stillness so important to any man's life?
It gets you back to your truth. It gets you back to your soul and your soul's purpose in this lifetime. For me, having a busy mind and being agitated, it took a lot of work to be able to get back to being still and sitting and just being in the moment, in the environment that I'm in. So to be in that zone is available to all. You just got to learn how to get there. Stillness is a fundamental part of being human. Without any stimulation, without a TV in front of you or a beer can in your hand or whatever, just being still and present, actually like observing the flow of the energy in the body and the connection with everything around you just gets you back to the truth of it all again. So in Kundalini Yoga, we have what's called sadhana. So that's getting up at 3:30 in the morning and being in the environment in the ambrosial hours. So you hear nothing. You actually see the world as it is without any interruption at all. And you can get to that sense of peace throughout the day if you find a stillness practice that works for you. All the noise around you just shuts down when you actually get back into this inner harmony and this inner connection again. So that was a real game changer for me. Stillness came for me through fitness primarily. So once I learned to push my body hard enough, my mind got settled, and then I got into this fluency of actually being more present in the moment. For a guy with a busy mind, meditating is probably not easy, but I'd say if you can do something like breath work or shift energy before you sit in stillness, will probably help you a hell of a lot.
Yeah. So let's get into the meditation then, because I know a lot of men have tried it and they're just like, oh, no, it's not for me. Can you speak on that, please, Aaron?
Definitely. One thing that worked for me individually was to use a mantra. So a mantra is repetition. So when you repeat something, it just helps you learn to, not so much learn, but it just automatically helps you move to shift and settle down. So when you're just sitting in stillness, your mind will be active. But if you can do something to keep the mind engaged and probably get both hemispheres of the mind working together, it actually helps bring this into harmony again. And mantras are, quite weird to us in Australia here or other Western cultures because they're traditionally around, what's taught in the East, so in India and those sorts of, areas. Whereas they know their connection with the earth and the universe is so much more profound than what ours is. We've been indoctrinated in this colonial system, which is all about fear, force, and control. So we're going to lose that to start with. So meditation with a mantra will actually help you get out of the mind back into the heart center again, So I'd recommend 11 minutes, try and have a look at some mantras that can actually help you learn to de-escalate, but you need to do it for 40 days minimum. My teacher gave me a practice for 1,000 days. So I did it every morning for 1,000 days. And, what happened over 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, 3 years was totally different, the whole journey. But it actually gives me this high level of awareness now that I would never have had unless I actually done that. So it's all about showing up every day and doing it consistently. So those Eastern cultures use a term called japa or japa, and japa means repeat. If you repeat consistently, it'll become part of you. It's just like building your biceps. If you do it regularly, they'll get bigger. So will your essence within yourself. If you keep working towards that stability, that internal stability is really, really key. Look at life in modern society. It's consistently trying to throw us out of rhythm and out of whack. It's trying to get us to stimulate consistently with coffee and then booze at the end of the day and then eat stuff, and that funnels us into this medical system, which is all about getting you on medication. So you can participate in that, or you can say no, like I did, and just basically try and move back to empowerment again. I think that's available to all of us, and that's really what my purpose is, to be able to help empower guys more to find their truth, rather than get to the end of this life and think maybe I could have done it better. There's an opportunity to be able to get that self-regulation and that sense of purpose back again now.
Yeah, so how does a man choose a mantra? Have you got any suggestions?
Well, certainly without going into it with any judgment, I'd say we're lucky with the technology these days to be able to learn online and just see what might actually work for us. So there's a universal sound called Om. So it's just Om like this. And that basically is the sound of creation primarily. And to be able to do this consistently over 11 minutes, just and a breath, and just something like that is very achievable and easy. The big thing for a guy is to get out of the ego and just like surrender and let it happen, and do it regularly. So that's a great start. There's lots of different mantras from different technologies and cultures like Hinduism, Buddhism, Kundalini yoga, the Sikh tradition. They've got some powerful ones. So definitely do a bit of research and see what actually resonates with you. Because when you hear it, it'll resonate with your heart. If something resonates with your heart, it's for you. If it's just not there, then it's not for you. But find the one that actually works for you, and that just gives you that inner connection straight away. If you've got that, and you're not forcing it, you're allowing it, and you allow yourself to receive, that's when things start to happen. So as guys, we don't receive very well. We just got to learn to let these mantras do the work for us, and they actually do work. Trust me, they do work. From someone that was, very, I suppose, resistant to this sort of stuff, to be able to do it and have it as part of my life now, I can wholeheartedly say this sort of stuff definitely works. And it's something that every human needs to do. Yeah.
Aaron, I love what you said also about Buddhism, because that was also initially a big part of my journey, not to embrace it as a religion, but just to read some of the books and actually understand the mind and the power of emotions. It was incredible just to have that awareness and understanding, which laid the whole foundation for my spiritual growth the last 30 years. Can you talk to that, please, and maybe just share some basic tenets that are really powerful to understand?
Definitely, when we sort of see Buddhism, we think about monks, and we think about people that are completely self-disciplined, and they're not of this world, they are of this world, but they're at a different level than what we are. So there's a bit of fear from the average person to actually perceive Buddhism as something as being a practice which may work for us. But it's this innate knowledge and this innate wisdom around humanology primarily, and how the mind is a wonderful servant, but it's a terrible master as well. So if you're not not onto the way your mind works, it can take you out of alignment consistently. And I know it happens to me. I get taken out of whack, but then eventually I come back to my heart. And this is just a reminder. This is the to and fro, like the tug of war, as I mentioned, which everyone's on. Everyone's involved in. So to be able to learn to settle the mind is key to be able to reach your potential as a human. And Buddhism is a great philosophy and a great pathway for people to actually start to explore how the mind actually works and how it can take you away on these little journeys. But to be able to sort of see that and arrest it and bring it back again is really key. So I was lucky. I got trained and taught by monks really early on. When I say early on, like in my 30s, later 30s, but that was part of me learning a bit about meditation. And I was having to sit on my backside in complete discomfort in a freezing cold room in Hobart to learn this stuff. So it actually taught me, to learn discomfort. I'd say that's not for everyone, but that's what I needed at the time to be able to sort of help me learn to push through, blockages. So that helped a lot. But certainly, those guys taught me a hell of a lot about being a human, and I actually really closely thought about being ordained myself. So just walking away from this life and just going and being in that realm, consistently. I would have loved to become a monk, but my calling was to say we need you out here. So I need to be out here amongst it all. Life would be beautiful and simple on that side. But I need to be out here to be able to help people. I suppose it's really, the journey that has taken me to where I am now. And when I was a 15-year-old little boy, I remember the moment coming to me where I was thinking to myself, "Do I really want to be part of all this? I'm going down this path that's that I'm not really aligned with. I'm having to party and do all this sort of stuff. I didn't really want to do that. It was all part of the fabric of being a boy in a regional town. And a strong voice coming back there and said, you need to go through this so you can come out of it, a more wiser, more holistic person. So that was in my 30s, mid to late 30s before that actually happened. But I knew that was coming. It just never appeared until the right time, So it's never too late to make those changes. And certainly Buddhism for me, if I'd have learnt that when I was a young bloke, how much different life would have been. But I knew that I had to go on the pathway to be able to see life from a different perspective, to be able to help that understanding and that knowing for the average man out there.
Yeah, I know for me 30 years ago, I read the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying, and that was the one I was taking notes. It was a revelation for me, back then. Are there any other resources that you would recommend for people that don't have the opportunity like you to be taught by the monks?
Yeah, definitely. Depending on where you are, there's usually Dharma centres around various parts of most states within Australia. So you can actually go to them and connect with them around their teaching methodologies and their literature and so forth. So a lot of those Dharma centres have online teachings that you can tap into as well. So, I have a book in there that it's called How to Be Compassionate, and it's all these things that the Buddhism teaches you: how to be empathetic, how to be compassionate, how to be kind, how to be generous, all sort of stuff. And there's a whole philosophy around that. So you might be able to pick something which is relevant to you, and then learn that, and then start to have that as a base of your transformation and your change. Because there's always something that we're lacking. I know when I'm in my complete truth, I'm just so compassionate and caring and that for other people. But when I'm too much in my head, I become judgmental and critical and all that type of stuff. So to be able to reverse that and stay more aligned with these things, which are higher levels of consciousness rather than lower levels of consciousness. You think about modern society, it's trying to keep us in lower levels of conscious consistently fear, shame, guilt, greed, all that, rather than kindness, compassion, love, gratitude, that type of stuff. Be able to be more connected to those feelings and those ways of being will take you to your higher purpose at the end of the day, But it is a tug of war, it's a tug of war between both. So we've got to be able to, have this this side of our being wind more than the lower side, because modern society, this colonial model, is trying to pull us towards this lower side consistently.
Now, Aaron, with your extensive knowledge, I don't want to miss anything that could be brought up in this conversation. So where do we need to go?
With regards to learning that sort of stuff, or
well, to this conversation, to get the most of your information to be shared here, what do men need to know?
Look, you know, my advice for guys out there is just, you know, strip away your life to where you basically got to now. Are you happy? Are you living in, you know, your truth and alignment? What is it to you that actually would make you feel, you know, fulfilled? A lot of guys want love. They need love. You know, that's missing in a lot of our lives. You know, whether in relationships or not. There's not many guys that are in a loving relationship. They're in relationships, but they're not actually like in a purely loving relationship. So, first of all, is to get to know how to love yourself again. You know, as I said before, I say I love you. You first must understand I. So you've got to do the work. You know, books and that are great, and other philosophies are great, but you've got to be able to do the work on yourself. And as I mentioned before, like that time in the morning, if it's available to you, get up early and do stuff. You know, do stuff which connects you to that little boy again. You know, that feeling of joy and that feeling of union and peace within yourself, and that'll take you on the pathway which you need to go. You know, we're only in these bodies for a short period of time. You don't want to get to the end of it and you know, be miserable or be unhappy with the way it's gone for you. You know, there's an opportunity now to arrest you know, your journey and just say thank you to that. You know, everything happens for a reason, and if we sort of hit a critical point in our life, we can actually like divert into the area that we want to go down. You know, and yeah, I've had to make some tough decisions on my life. But once I let go, once I surrender, then usually everything just opens up as it should. The right people appear, the right things appear. You know, rather than when something bad happens, be upset and angry and anxious about it, say thank you. What's this teaching me? And then be able to you know, go down that path, because that just takes you on a whole different journey of opening up into what's possible. You know. So I'll give you an example. Like I ended up in Queensland in February 2020. That's another story. But I got stuck here because of COVID, and I couldn't go back. So back to Victoria. So I said, okay, why am I here? Why is this happening? And once I got that mindset, then all of a sudden these opportunities started opening up. What I came up here to do primarily work-wise was not able to happen because of COVID. So I couldn't go and do the human contact stuff. But all these other things started to appear. And then, you know, got approached by an organisation to come up to Central Queensland to work. Okay, let's have a look at that. And then just bang, it happens. And, you know, that was a government role again. And I just thought this is taking on a journey for a reason. So I went on that journey, and then it took me to a cease of contract. Once that project is done, what do you got for me next? What's next? What's next? And without expecting it or forcing it, just allowing yourself to be open is a critical thing for a man to be able to understand and evolve. You know, allow, don't force, and just let things happen. Once you allow things, then usually things open up for you. But when you force things, they usually force back at you. And I caught myself out before. You know, I put in for a grant for this charity. I'm getting anxious about it, and I sent an email up, and I got a half-baked answer, and you know, I was a little bit disappointed with that. But yeah, I'll just have to leave myself open. And if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, then there's another pathway to go down. You know, and once we can start to get that level of awareness and that understanding, then we actually open ourselves up to a life of beauty and joy. You know, you're seeing what's being created for you, and everything's being created for a reason. And once you sort of start to look at life that way, then it actually becomes really beautiful. You know, it doesn't become a struggle. And that's what the whole system is trying to get us to do. They're trying to get us to struggle. You know, fuck that. At the end of the day, we can actually like take our power back. Humans are meant to be living in collaboration, not comparison. You know, humans are meant to be in tribes, working together, you know, sharing, loving, doing all this sort of stuff. but we've been divided, we've been separated, and this whole agenda that's happened over the last period is pretty much just about that, isn't it? When you look at it wholeheartedly from the essence, disconnection and fear and all that type of stuff. But do you want to play in that system or not? I by default come across the news from somewhere I was the other day. It was like I was being poisoned through my eyes. So disconnect from that sort of stuff, as most people listening to this probably would be anyway. But just follow your heart and follow where life's taking you. I think that's the real essence of being a human, and get back to collaboration with yourself and connection with yourself and loving yourself, and then starting to see what happens for you from there. I think that's the beauty of being human. We've got so much ability to be more than what we actually are. I've seen what's available as a human as far as our potential is concerned, just by opening myself up and pushing myself and doing all these sorts of things, and uncovering all these blockages, which were actually keeping me restricted from the potential that we've actually got. And I just think the Roman Empire, the colonial model, all that type of stuff is actually taking us away from our intuition and our hearts at the end of the day. Blocked our third eye, blocked our hearts. I think there's been a real agenda around that. Well, as I said, fuck that. Let's start to take that back again. We've got the power to do so, so let's do it.
So good. Yeah, even also disconnected us from Mother Earth, through rubber soles, and, just disconnected us from everything divine and organic. And yes, I do agree there was an agenda. I want to talk about, because what you said about men looking for love, that's massive. And I know there's so many men out there who are feeling lonely. They long for that feminine connection, and okay, sexually, they want the physicality, but also the emotional, the feminine energy. And they get in a downward spiral because they can't see that manifesting in their lives anytime soon. What have you got to say to those men?
I'm one of them. I'd love to be in a relationship, and I just when I get anxious about that, I just have to let go and just let that take care of itself. You think about it. When we were little boys, we were put into cribs in a room away from our mothers with all these other babies and separated. So that sense of separation was there early on for a lot of us, or most of us. And then, maybe back then our mothers were maybe struggling with postnatal depression, all that type of stuff. I reckon my mum was one of them. So maybe I didn't get that connection that I needed when I was a young fella. I was never told that I was loved by my mum, any of that sort of stuff. But that's okay. It was all part of the world back then. And think about it. My mum's mum and that family went to war. My dad's family went to war. There was all this trauma come into my life. So that feeling of love is part of being a human. But it's not our fault that we're disconnected from that, So it's just a matter of really starting to learn to love yourself again. I think if you can start to do that, then all of a sudden, then opportunities, not so much opportunities, but people and things present to you, and that way the right decisions will be made rather than the wrong ones. And we make wrong decisions as men with regards to relationships because we're attracted to a physical presence or whatever that may be. But yeah, really get to know yourself wholeheartedly. I reckon if I had not had those moments when I was a young fella, I was able to live in my truth and purpose, then I would have been in a healthy, happy relationship from an early age right through till now. One of the things that I did, which was one of the most profound opportunities I had, was I actually went, when I was back in Victoria, I actually went around and interviewed a lot of guys, a lot of old men, about what it was that made them happy and fulfilled. And, probably 75% had been married to the same woman since they were young. They'd had this relationship with the lady the whole time. And they were all farmers primarily, but they were soul of the earth types of people that were just content, and their wives really complemented their lives, Back then, it was a different world. The guy went out and did the work, came home, he had his morning tea, his lunch, his afternoon tea, his dinner provided, all that sort of stuff. It doesn't happen now. This whole way of being has changed, but they love their partners, and one old guy, I remember, he's still alive now. he said, I loved her more than I loved myself. I just gave her everything. And I think she gave the same back to me. She actually gave the same back to me. And that's success at the end of the day, isn't it? To be able to have a relationship where you are in this union together. And, I just don't think that's something that's that we're connected with as men. We've got to love and respect ourselves, but also got to really love and respect the other individual and help them have space. In this world now, it's totally different and disconnected, and be able to have the ability for them to be able to have their own space, women to have their own space, and us to have our own space too, and then we just work together. In complementary, I think it's really key and important, because that's where we're failing, and that's why unfortunately the system that we're in is preying on these poor lifestyle behaviours, which leads to detachment and leads to disconnection from yourself and disconnection from your marriage at the end of the day, or relationship at the end of the day.
Yeah. And I've got a theory that, something that men can always find the feminine energy. And I mean, at the moment, they're usually guided, on their phone through pornography or whatever, it's instant, it's there. But what about men connecting to Mother Earth, the feminine energy of the outdoors, just sitting under a tree, putting your bare feet on the ground? That's feminine energy. Have you got anything to say around that?
Absolutely. That was one of the biggest things for me, to be able to actually appreciate and understand that. So I was into fitness athletics. I had all the gear, had the best running shoes and that. And I was looking at these old blokes over in America running around in their bare feet, and I'm thinking they're happy, and I'm not. I'm just worrying about beating the time. So then I started to take my shoes off and I started to run on the earth. And not only it helped my physical body, it actually helped my emotional body be able to self-regulate. The relationship that we have with the earth has been disjointed because of industry and all the other stuff around raping the earth to get material things, which actually aren't appreciative of its benefits. I'll give you an example. Like, I was born in the 70s and everyone grew their own food, and it was actually joyful to be able to see the guy next door bring over stuff and then he'd swap him stuff, and there were all things that actually did themselves, which gave them fulfillment. But in the 80s and 90s, we got programmed into the supermarket, So having the ability to be able to connect with the earth, to be able to give you the abundance of being a human that it actually is doing, we just become unconscious of that. I know if I'm feeling out of alignment, I look around, I just see the way nature's moving and all the other animals are working together. And they're not thinking, they're just going with the flow of life and the flow of the universe, for me personally, I felt the best I ever did when I was raw vegan. So actually, was a fruitarian for quite a few years. I just lived on fruit, and I just felt in this complete bliss, this complete alignment all the time. Just my body was working optimally. Because you're eating like good, ripe, organic fruit. You're just getting the pure essence of the earth into your body, and I just think the response from that feedback is so important, So I come out of that alignment and had to get back into normal lifestyle behaviours with regards to my food habits, but I'm starting to maybe transition to that back a little bit now. But I just think, the earth and the universe is giving us everything we need. We just got to tune into that, tune into ourselves and tune into that again. I think that's so important.
And I love, I've got quite a few other heart warriors that have advocated for this frugarian diet. And they say, you've got to look, Mother Earth doesn't want life to be difficult. And there we've got fruit. It doesn't need to be, like looked after, the fruit tree, apart from a little bit of, TLC every now. It's there, beautiful, delicious. Fruit tastes so good, it's there ready to eat. And there is quite a movement towards this fruit diet. And I mean, for me, I would say I'm mostly fruit now. Well, fruit and chocolate, balanced diet, right? But it's so delicious. Fruit is so delicious. Have you got anything else more to say about this to men who might think, what, you can live off fruit, no meat?
When your senses are heightened, like you just become connected with all these beautiful flavors and that come from the earth, you know. And once you do that, you're in this nice vibrational harmony. So that energy is actually working well with the system and your body, and you look around you, and you know, you actually realize that you're in tune with everything. So where do we start? Like I was vegan for a while, and then I started to look at people around the world that were doing well athletically, and a lot of them were raw vegan. So, you know, Michael Arnstein was doing 100K runs in you know, under 10 hours, and I thought, well, I could do that too, but my diet's getting in the way. So I started to live on fruit more, and I just was clear. I started to move better, all that type of stuff. And I traveled around the world and looked at the healthiest people and the healthiest cultures, and went to raw food festivals all around and all that sort of type of stuff. And you know, the tug of war again was being in that environment and getting back to civilization, not being able to live like that. So that's where I sort of had to let go. But yeah, certainly I would say if someone wants to explore this, is to maybe have, you know, 1 or 2 meals a day that are just plant-based, you know, fruit primarily. Mono meals are great to be able to combine the right fruits together, you know, so have sweet fruits with sweet fruits, and, you know, citrus with citrus and that type of stuff. Don't mix it up, because if you're confusing that, then your body gets confused and it doesn't work better. But the body is always giving you feedback, and once that digestive system starts to work well, this starts to work better. It's very similar, it's very intertwined, and the whole system that we're in disconnects us from this connection, you know. To be able to have that working in harmony helps us physically and mentally, but also spiritually. We're more dialed in. So I saw some incredible people. Dr. Robert Lockhart, if you want to look up Dr. Robert Lockhart, he's an amazing man. He's died. He's unfortunately passed away now. But in his 70s, you know, walking on his hands for 100 meters and just, you know, complete in this fluency. And it just showed me what the potential we have as humans actually is. You know, so getting back and getting in connection with this this gift that nature's actually giving us, you know, helps us reach our human potential and you know, our truth in this lifetime. You know, as I said, like back in the 70s, it was simple, it was easy, but now it's become complicated. We've got more choice, but we're more miserable and we're more disconnected than ever. So I definitely recommend, you know, if you want to try and get better as a human, maybe look at, you know, doing a fast every now and then, water fast or a coconut water fast, and cleaning yourself up, and then just getting back into maybe eating fruit for a while and just seeing what that does for you, you know. Once you get back into that alignment again, it can really help. I'd really recommend, you know, going to a raw food festival. Grant Campbell's got a really good one in Thailand, and some others around the world you can probably connect with. But you start get back into that, I suppose, that guidance of people that have walked the path. That can really help you on your journey rather than sort of trying to do it yourself.
And there's a lot of great resources out there on YouTube and books, and, you know, it's really a growing awareness now, which is fascinating. And it's just also for health, for, you know, to heal our body through fruit and fasting is miraculous. You know, no wonder it's been hidden for so long.
You won't hear that from a GP, you're right.
Yeah. Now, Aaron, you are a anxiety management teacher. What does the typical man coming to you with anxiety issues look like? I mean, not physically. What's his life? What does his life look like?
Just primarily stressed from their jobs, stressed from the, you know, the demands of modern life, kids, wife, relationships, all that type of stuff. Not actually realizing so much they're anxious, but they just think, you know, the general term is stress. So my example was, I went to a doctor back in 2007 or 8. He said you can do 2 things. You can take pills or exercise. So that's when I chose, well, I'm not going a part of this system. I'm going part of my own system. That's where I started to move. So I help people to be able to learn. I don't do this anymore really, but you know, it's all around providing guidance. Okay, between now and the 1st of December, I want you to be able to do this every day. You know, there's no excuses. There's no reason why you can't do this. We need to be able to do these things every day, which actually help you learn to calm down and de-escalate again. You know, we're not meant to be anxious. We're meant to have a little bit of anxiousness there, a little bit of stress there, but we're meant to be in our parasympathetic nervous system more. Most people don't understand that. They just only know their sympathetic nervous system as being the way to live. And that's not the right way to live. So to be able to like learn to switch is really what it's all about. To be able to actually like learn how to go from one to the other by using various techniques, various practices, whether that be breath, movement, mind, body, and to be able to give them a practice which actually works for them. Everyone's different. What you're doing and what I'm doing may work for you, but it mightn't work for me. So to be able to find what works for you is really important.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. But can you give maybe 2 or 3 tips that, a man who's feeling the weight of that stress and anxiety now might be able to explore?
Sure. Getting back to nature is the first. Just getting your shoes off, getting out bush or wherever it actually is more often. So when you got a choice to have a beer or to go and do that, I'd say go and do that and to see how it feels when you finish, and then do it again and then do it again. That's certainly the first tip. Not taking as much food to bed with you, like not eating as much at night. So you're actually going to bed and you're getting a deep rest, which actually helps your nervous system settle down. And once that happens, then you start to feel a little bit more connected the next day. So, when you've got the weight of the world on your shoulders, you also have the choice. When we've got the weight of the world on our shoulders, we're always looking for stimulation. That's when we become open to the system, and the system's trying to program us with this bullshit consistently. So just being aware of that, so to make holistic choices. And, if you're at that stage, I'd probably recommend getting a coach or getting someone to help you on that journey. I think that's an unbelievable investment. It's hard when we're thinking we're going to pay a couple of grand or whatever to get someone to help us, but that return investment is significant. If you will get results from it. There's no doubt about it. Just make sure you try and pick the right person that's coming at it from the right place, not from ego. At the end of the day, and really has got genuine compassion for you as an individual and wants to help you on the right journey to be able to be a better person. And that's our role as guys with a brotherhood, is to be able to help other brothers without comparison. This whole system's taught us comparison rather than compassion. Got to get back to learning compassion again, and once we're in that state, then we can actually learn to grow. And that's a hard thing for a guy to be able to shift. Fuck that, it doesn't work. Competition is the disease of humanity, I believe. So to be able to move away from that, I think is really key and important.
Yeah, because competition separates us, right? Doesn't bring in the unified strength. And to anyone that is looking for a coach, because Aaron says that, he's not doing it anymore, this Heart Warrior series, I've interviewed quite a few men who are actual coaches. And what I recommend is that you friend or follow them all on Facebook. You get your feed flooded with great men's posts, healthy awareness. And you can either watch them or look at their writing and see who you resonate with, because they've all got a little flavor of their own. And it's just truly wonderful. Or just watch the Heart Warrior series and the Man Speak, that they're all bringing in their wisdom. And this is what it's all about, because this men's movement is growing and expanding. It's massive, isn't it? Have you seen that in the last, how many years? What's happening in the men's movement?
I started doing this stuff almost 10 years ago in Tassie. I was running a men's circle at the Buddhist Centre. So there was me and a monk, and then we'd get a few guys around. We start to talk about stuff. And I knew that something had to be done sort of back then, and it sort of slowly evolved, but I saw a lot of guys coming at it from the wrong place, from ego. That's my concern. That's why I'm doing this thing with this charity, is to try and, be sort of a conduit between ones which I don't believe are doing it well and the ones that are actually doing it well, because there's plenty out there that are doing lots of great self-promotion and all that sort of stuff, but really they've got lots of problems themselves, and I don't want them helping people because they need to do work on themselves. So there is a definite movement. The government's been really resistant to it for a long time. That's part of what I'm doing, to be able to shift that, to make a bit of noise and start to bring some awareness to this sort of stuff. So I don't get any funding with this charity. I get a few donations. I've got donation boxes at cafes and pubs and that sort of thing, just to try and help get this moving along. But my vision is to be able to do more of this all throughout Australia and have people employed under this foundation throughout Australia. So I want people working alongside me, with me, to be able to get out there and help humanity, not to be able to help their own ego and their own pockets at the end of the day. So just be very careful of people out there that are actually doing this, and they're coming at it from the wrong space, you know.
Yeah, that's so true. And again, this is all about, with anything, learning to feel into our hearts and trust. Who do we resonate with? And I know as a woman, I'd like to talk to you after this about how a man can understand the feeling of being in his heart. But for me as a woman, it's like, what makes my heart expand and open, and what makes me contract, you know, when you're there with your arms folded. But how does a man who's never been aware of his heart energy understand the feeling and the difference from being in the head to being in the heart, and then maybe integrating both?
In yoga, primarily does both. It'll actually, it just shifts stuff within you, and it gets you back to that internal connection again. You know, it's just about that feeling of safety and security within yourself again, and then finding that alignment again, and over time it just happens effortlessly. But you're dead right. It's very hard for a man to be able to get back to a state of acceptance and allowing, and then to be able to feel open enough to trust again, and also to actually trust themselves. You know, on this journey of self-development, it's an ongoing thing. You've never got it mastered. You know, there's always things you can do on a daily basis which take you on a growth trajectory, rather than sort of being stuck. Look at modern society and what it sort of talks about with post-traumatic stress disorder. I talk about, you know, post-traumatic growth. So all these things that have actually happened in our lives which kept us stuck, let's actually use them as a platform so we can start to grow from, you know. And, you know, as I mentioned before with my own journey too, like, everything happens for a reason. Look at it, wrap it up, say thank you, and what's going on for me now? What's going to happen to me now if I allow myself be enough to open up to allow that to happen? So yeah. So I just think you know, we are protective of our own hearts too. You know, that's something that we don't want tarnished. So yeah, it is an interesting one, because we have been, as I said earlier, we've had many blows to the heart, which protect us. You know, once we get those blows to the heart, we become sort of, you know, we have an armor on ourselves, which sort of restricts us from all the beautiful things in life that life can actually give us. But once we start to learn how to disarmor and start to allow ourselves to be open again, and that's when we can start to maybe start to be more fulfilled in this lifetime. You know, it's amazing how, you know, each decade of your life things change. Like in Kundalini Yoga, we talk about the human body changing every 7 years. We actually do change physically and mentally every 7 years. To be able to sort of work with that, rather than sort of, you know, looking at where you are now and wishing you had been, you know, sort of be something like you once were, is a real trap and a disease in its essence. To be able to sort of work with the pathway of life, to be able to embrace that. This is where I see guys growing rather than sort of staying stuck. You know, they're actually growing with their evolution and being able to reach their potential. You got to look at Joss Sawyer. Joss is down the Gold Coast, but Sunshine Coast. But at 64, the guy is absolutely thriving. You know, he's got a huge physical capability because he keeps showing up every day, but he's just in alignment. You know, so it just goes to show that if you continually work with what's going on, you can actually keep continuing to grow. So if you have had some stress in your life, you know, I'm being diagnosed with post-traumatic stress, and, you know, having sort of that label put on you, or do you want to be stuck in that label? Or do you want to learn from it and grow? I just think the sooner we can start to wrap up, you know, our past, and be able to be thankful for that, and start to move towards, you know, the potential that we've actually all got within us, and we can start to, you know, live more of a fulfilled life.
Aaron, are there any other core issues that need to be raised in this conversation that you're seeing at the moment in men?
I've got a men's circle tonight. I run here. Judgment is probably the biggest one, you know, not being able to go into an environment and sort of, you know, listen to someone speak and judge them. Just to be open to everyone's experience in the journey and what's actually happening in their life, and see that with compassion is really what I want to try and help people understand and learn to do, because that is a trap that most guys are finding ourselves in. that's an important part of being a human. We need that judgment there to be able to protect us. At the end of the day, to be able to sort of, see it and then let it go, and then open to, as I said, higher levels of awareness and consciousness, like compassion, which can actually help you grow as an individual and start to learn from others' experiences. I believe every man's got a unique experience. Last year I was at a prison in Maryborough, and I was talking to this young bloke who was 25, and he was covered in tattoos. There was not one part of his body he couldn't see, but he'd done all the work himself primarily. And I was having a conversation with him, and he realised that no one had actually listened to him his whole life. No one had actually listened to him. I was listening to him. And, I helped him realise that he's actually got a real talent here. What he's actually doing is very unique. So for us to be able to work towards, getting him out of there and starting to take a direction into self-growth, where he can use his artistic ability, which no one had actually ever recognised, to be able to, become fulfilled and live a fulfilled life, is now taking him on a journey of less crime, and actually not doing as much self-harm with regards to drinking and drugs and that type of thing, and actually working back in a role that he's never had a job before. He's always got out of jail and got back in, but he's actually now working in a role doing tattooing, and I just think that's an example of what's possible. So not judging someone on what's going on the outside, actually listening to them and actually seeing what's happened on the inside, and seeing that with compassion can actually help that person, but not only help them, help yourself to be able to get something out of being a human. Judgment is cancer. Comparison is cancer. Competition is detrimental to humanity. I believe, and that's what's keeping us blocked from our truth and our potential.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah. So I love this listening, because everyone most people enjoy speaking about themselves and being listened to without interruption, and a genuine presence in the conversation. Now, what sort of questions can men or women ask other men to start opening them up so they don't feel attacked? Have you got suggestions?
It's definitely when you're you're opening up a conversation with someone. How are you? How are you? It's an open question, and actually listen with curiosity and intent, rather than just an off the cuff comment. So if it's someone that's actually out of alignment and they're in some form of disease, that can go on and on and on. So to be able to actually learn how to regulate the conversation with compassion and help that individual walk away from that conversation feeling like they've actually grown is really, really important. So I get phone calls all the time from people that are struggling with stuff, and I need to be able to be mindful of my own energy around being able to manage that conversation. So I'll get to the key things. What's going on for you? What's happened? What can we do to correct this between today and tomorrow? And then start to get them working down that pathway, and then be able to maybe check in back in with them again, or whatever it actually is, to be able to help them feel supported. So what I mentioned before about this separation thing, this support is key to being a human, and key to being a man, primarily, to be able to support one another and actually help that individual towards growth rather than sort of being stuck. So there's one guy that comes to the men's circle tonight. He's been coming. I've been running it for 2 years. He was the chatterbox in the whole thing. The whole time he tried to take over, we just kept listening, and eventually he started to quieten down, because he actually felt like he was being heard. That's all he needed, because he was never heard when he was a little boy, primarily. And we actually helped him figure that out himself. If we can help that self-empowerment towards autonomy, then that's when an individual starts to shift and change. You've got to give that person that autonomy back. And if we can do that without giving them, maybe guidance which might go straight over the top of the head, to actually just keep being able to listen with openness and compassion, that could actually really help. But also, learn to manage your own boundaries and learn how to stop conversations and continue conversations on from there. I think it's really key to be able to be good in this space. Otherwise, many coaches have said, they come into this with ego, end up failing because they don't know how to manage their own energy. And that's key. You can't be good at what you do unless you're actually managing yourself well.
And I think a really important point is what you touched on, because, well, I'm guilty as well. I mean, not so much now, but in the past, maybe listening to a man and then wanting me to come into my masculine and say, well, I think you should do this, this, and this. And this is part of the series that as women, through good intentions, have been trying to tell men how to be men for so long, when really they need to hear it man to man from other men. But can you expand on this? So if a man's telling his story and he's got problems and he doesn't know the answers, does he want to hear the answers, what we think are the answers, or does he just want to be heard?
Just wants to be heard primarily, listen with that openness and compassion, without a label or a judgment or whatever, because that's fear. Like when someone's opening up and you're giving them something that's blowing into here, as I mentioned before, they just need to be open and to be able to expand from that, because that's them pouring themselves out to actually release tension in the body. Once you release that tension physically and mentally, then that puts you in a state of growth. But once you get pushback from that, then it really puts you into a state of just self-doubt again, and that's not great. I was swimming in that ocean for a long time, that self-doubt ocean. Because I was working a lot, I thought I was great because I was earning good money, but I was in this uncertainty consistently, and it's not a great place to be. And there's lots of guys that are in that, in that mindset. It's not good. It's not good, and that takes us into into poor lifestyle behaviours, and that's a key factor into male suicide primarily at the moment. That lack of self-doubt is really the cancer again, which along with some of the other things, which is actually taking us out of this alignment. And just to be able to listen to someone when they need it, but also be able to show up and do it consistently, I think is really key and really important.
What's happening now around, or how prevalent are men that come to you that talking about suicide?
Yeah, look, there was one just recently. I've been there myself, years ago. Once you get to the bottom of the pendulum, you just cannot see anything any other way. You just feel like you're worthless. You've got no role in this lifetime, all that type of stuff. But for someone to actually give you the ability and a glimmer of hope and purpose to be able to actually, help you realise that you are loved and you are unique as an individual, and you are, genuinely needed on this earth. I believe every person that's on this earth is here for a reason. We've all got a gift. We've all got, something special inside us to be able to expand upon. It's being able to help them, on the first rung of the ladder towards that sense of getting out of that hole again. Just something which can actually give them some form of support and some form of hope when they're there. I think is really key and fundamental and important. Maybe medication is okay at times, but I don't think it's the goose that laid the golden egg. We've got to be able to do things which actually help our growth and sustain that growth. And there's too much reliance on medication because it's easy, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really give us the ability to be able to progress as humans. When our organs are not working well, then our mind's not working well. It'll become confused. But when you can start to get back into self-empowerment through living in harmony again, that can help you, get better above the shoulders as well. So it really bugs me that someone that's suicidal, is given a diagnosis on the clinical, in the clinical model, but there's no actual recognition around their diet and what's actually going on, within their ecosystem, which is contributing to their behavioural patterns. So we don't actually talk about that, and this is the sorts of things that I want to try and change and try and flip around, because there's all those contributors which are actually going on to taking us out of balance. we're very, very quick to label someone with, with a mental illness primarily, if they are in that suicidal realm. But let's actually look at the environment they're in and what we can do to change that first and foremost. And that actually helps them figure out themselves that maybe I can do this myself, maybe I can move away from this, So primarily it's relationships, it's money with men. I'd say, geez, 70% are problems with their partners, with kids, all that type of stuff. I went through a period when my wife and I spoke, but I sort of felt, I was in a lot of self-doubt too. But then I started to realise, well, yeah, this has happened for a reason, and I think my kids are going to be better now because we're not together, and we're actually able to become independent, and we can actually help them, be better people by being, autonomous here. And if you can actually help a guy that's struggling, understand that can help shift them. There's always a money blockage with regards to, she's going to get this, whatever. As soon as you can let someone understand or help someone understand the surrender, away from that and just say, thank you. If it's going to mean consequences financially, then what's the growth pattern that's going to come from that, rather than being stuck in it. And this is where we sort of get ourselves trapped as guys. We're always in this fear, and, actually look at the opportunity as being an opportunity for growth. And that's where we can start to move the mindset away from suicidal idealization and, and all the bad stuff that may potentially come around it, and I just think the whole clinical model and the whole sort of system we're in is very reactive. We've got to be more proactive, and this is my duty moving forward, is to be able to help men to be able to be proactive so we're less susceptible to the traps, but also, when we're in the trap or we're caught, how to be able to get out of it, proactively rather than being reactive and stuck there,
Yeah, that's a beautiful message. Aaron, now I'd like you to talk man to a man who's on the other side watching this and in those suicidal thoughts. Can you please speak to him, a short message directly to him?
Look, mate, at the end of the day, we're all the same. We're all actually, we're all humans, and we're all here for a reason. So if you're struggling with something at the moment, it will pass. Everything in life is impermanent. What we're going through now is not going to be present in 6 months, 12 months, and beyond that. So being able to get through this period of your life and know that there's good coming, and you are a good person underneath all this. So whatever's making you feel miserable and in doubt and in fear and all that type of stuff, will move on. It's not going to hang around forever. But be able to be present with that and accept it as an opportunity that you can actually learn from and grow from, will help you on a pathway to a better life, and just hang in there at the end of the day, because I'm testament that this sort of stuff can happen. I wouldn't be sitting here today talking to you unless I'd been there myself. It actually took me to a better place. So what you're going through now is probably happening for a reason, and you can come out much better. And life's a gift at the end of the day. We're not here to struggle. We're meant to thrive. So just stick with it, and reach out if you need support. Get it. And try and move on, and contact the Outback Mind Foundation, which is my organisation. If I can give you guidance towards the right people, I'll do that.
Thank you. Is there one tip that he can do right now that will help?
Take your shoes off, get outside, get back into nature, de-stress, get away from stimulation as much as you possibly can. Leave your phone at home. Anything can wait. Listen to the messages that you want to listen to, not the ones that you don't. Don't get trapped in the negative. Be more aware of the negative and be able to, not respond to that. When we're anxious or we're stressed or we're in this low state, we become really responsive. To actually see it for what it is, put it down, move away, get away from the situation that's making you miserable or out of balance, and try and find that harmony again. Just get outside, get into an environment where you're actually being re-natured rather than being denatured. I think it's really important.
Thank you, Aaron. Are there, please let people know where they can find you, your organisations, and then any other resources that we can add in the links or that men can have on hand should they need something.
I have a men's health promotion charity. It's a grassroots men's promotion charity. So I'll give you an example. This is how the system's been, fucked up. We have Movember and all these organisations which are getting shitloads of money, and they're not doing much for rural men's mental health or regional Australian men's mental health. People out here where it's needed. So I want to be able to change that. I want to be able to do something where all the money and support goes back into helping guys in these areas. So if the guy's struggling, like we just discussed, they can actually come to an organisation like this, where there's guys that have actually had the lived experience that they've been through, so they can actually help give them guidance and have that understanding and awareness. The local hospital here is full consistently with people that have got mental health challenges. It's not the right environment for them to be in. They need to be in an environment where they can feel safe and supported and guided. And my vision is to be able to have sites all throughout regional Australia where men primarily can do this. So my organisation is called the Outback Mind Foundation. Mind is a term, but heart's really the purpose. Mind is a tool of being a human, but we're all connected by the heart or through the heart. So we actually help men reconnect with that again, and that's available to all of us. So just jump on outbackmind.org.au. It'll give you a bit of an idea. And this is evolving for me. I've had a lot of money. I've thrown a lot of my time and resources into it, but this will hopefully grow moving forward. So if there's something in your own community where you are and I can help, I'm more than happy to do what I can. If you're outside the country listening to this, please reach out to me, and it'd be great to be able to develop a network of people that are doing this sort of stuff around the country. If what I've sort of said today resonates with you. So that's my first priority at the moment. There is definitely resources out there, and good resources like the Australian Men's Health Forum, which provides good guidance and evidence and education for men throughout Australia. And they lobby really hard at government to try and get change in this space, and they're not getting a lot of support. So I'm certainly on the journey with them to be able to help do what I can to be able to change that in the future. So things are changing. We're in these bodies at the moment for the right reasons. We're actually a fundamental, pivotal moment in time where there's going to be a shift. There's going to be a change. Men have been neglected in this lifetime for too long, and basically over generations we have. So we all have thoughts, feelings, emotions. We aren't, tough exteriors like a lot of people think that we are. We've actually got to be able to embrace a full spectrum of emotions and be able to live a fulfilled life in this lifetime, and to be able to get to the end of it feeling like it is fulfilled, and being able to look back and, be grateful for the journey that we've been on. So that's our purpose, to be able to help more people work towards that.
Amazing. Thank you, Aaron. And where about in Queensland are you?
Central Queensland. So I was in Agnes Water, and I'm just I've come inland to Miriamvale, so it's just off the coast a bit, and pretty good for me because I can get up and down the highway to Brisbane, and I can get up to Rocky and Cairns if I need to. But my vision is to be able to get around the country and do more work, in the future. So to have access to transport is really, really key. That's why I sort of come out here, so I can get to the airport easy and travel around a bit. And I don't have, as I said, the finances at the moment to be able to support what I'm doing, but I'm hoping, that'll change in the future. So just got to keep hanging in there. And, I could have stayed in that health advisor role with the government and made a lot of money and not made a difference, but now I'm trying to make a difference. And, I know that the universe will provide at the end of the day.
Well, thank you so much. And I just want to check in that, is there anything else that needs to be said that we haven't touched on?
I'm sure we can keep talking all day. My head's getting a bit sunburned.
Yeah. No, I just want to make sure that, because I like the men to know that they've had the opportunity to say everything that needs to be said. Yeah,
I really appreciate that. I was in meditation this morning, and actually this came in, and I've seen so much evidence with guys and with humans in general. Once we can get out of our mind back into our hearts again, how beautiful we actually are, and how magnificent we all actually are as individuals. So So one thing for people to take away is just realize that you aren't your mind. You are your heart and your heart's essence, and the soul's journey in this lifetime. You're here for a reason, and to be able to connect into that. So find a practice every day that you can tune into that. That's really key and important. This ancient wisdom and technology has been around for a long time. We've just become disconnected from that sort of stuff. But get back to your truth and get back to your heart and what your heart's saying to you, and you will start to love yourself again and start to thrive in this lifetime. And that's what it's all about at the end of the day. So that's the key message I wanted people to be able to understand. As I'm sure a lot of the other guys that have been on this have talked about as well.
Oh, thank you so much, Aaron. It's just been an amazing episode full of so much wisdom and help for our men out there. So I just want to thank you from my heart to yours, and thank you for all the work you're doing with the men in Australia. And you're always welcome back if you have a message to share.
Thank you for what you're doing. I think it's so awesome and important, for you to be able to create something like this. 5 years ago, this would not have been, watched by many in the masses. Most people would see this sort of stuff as being quite weird, but I believe, more people will start to wake up and look at this sort of stuff now. And, the more people we can start to expose these conversations to, the better, more aware, and the more equipped we're going to be as humans to be able to live more in alignment rather than out of alignment moving forward. So it's so important. So thank you and well done for what you're doing.
Thank you, Aaron. So everyone, thanks for watching. Please like, share, subscribe, and I'll be back in another couple of days with another episode of Heart Warriors. Bye. Stay on if you want, Aaron.